After an awesome 2020 CES by Arcade1up, I started thinking what would be my top 5 most wanted Arcade1up products. So I compiled 5 cabinets. I tried my best to not only give the main title but also give the supplemental titles. So I hope you like watching it, and please make sure that you tell me what are your top 5 cabinets in the comment section. So here we go. Coming in at number 5 is Nintendo's Punch-Out. Although this is number 5, quite honestly, it would probably be number 1 or number 2 on my list if I actually thought this had a chance of coming out. Um, I don't think Nintendo and Arcade1up will be able to come together to produce this, but maybe, just maybe, it can happen in the future. When I first saw this in the arcade, the graphics looked so advanced. The sprites looked really big. I thought the green see-through character that you're playing, it really looked really advanced at the time. Double screen, and it also had this really cool KO, big old red KO button. That once your KO meter filled, you just slapped it, and you unleashed a overhand right that almost looked impossible. As you moved up in skill and rank, it would be harder to land. But yeah, it's this arcade game is the introduction to Ball Bull, Glass Joe, Mr. Sandman that all of us would get to know during the Punch Out for the Nintendo NES system. The second game I would really like to have on the cabinet would obviously be Super Punch Out. I've never played this game, but it would be a natural to have this game on the cabinet. It's never been ported, in my belief. I know that the regular Punch Out arcade is available on the Nintendo Switch, but I've never seen the Super Punch Out ported on the arcade to a regular home console system. I could be wrong, but I think that would really make the cabinet unique. Also, for the third game, it would probably be the only other game to really fit on the cabinet is Nintendo's arm wrestling. These units all were recycled into each other. The Punch Out arcades were recycled into Super Punch Out arcades, which were recycled into arm wrestling arcades, and eventually the last one they were recycled into was I think it was Play 10 choice, where they would load up 10 different Nintendo games, and you would be able to pick which 10 you played. So I think a cabinet with Punch Out, Super Punch Out, and arm wrestling would be a great cabinet. Me as a big combat fan, it's a natural that I would want this in my arcade. And the arm wrestling would be a very unique game to have. Again, I don't think this has ever been ported. I really doubt arm wrestling was ever ported onto a home console. And it also has a special guest appearance by Ball Bull, which is a unique little tie-in. But this would be an absolute amazing. This would be my number one. I've looked for it. A beat up, rough version of the arcade is about $1,000 to $1,200, and they're very rare to find because they were recycled so much into other arcades games. So if this could happen, that would be great. Not likely, but you can still hope. Dig Dug has been coming in at number 4, and to be honest, I'm surprised it hasn't been released yet. It has been released as a countercade and is part of the 12 games that are on the PacMan cocktail table. But this is a really great looking cabinet. The side decals are really nice. I like the bezel. It brings a lot of life to the machine. And I think obviously Dig Dug 2 would have to be on this. Perhaps they could throw in a Galaga or a Pac-Man onto this machine, or in a couple of other classic Namco games. But this would be a great addition to my collection, and it is a day one purchase for me. Coming in at number 3, we all saw at CES 2020, they released 2 pinball machines by Arcade1up. It was Star Wars, and I believe it was Williams, or was it Universal? No, actually, Universal was just in the leaked images. I think it was a Williams pinball machine cabinet. But when I saw it, I assumed that Marvel would be out at the release, right? The first wave of pinball machines that were coming out. That is not the case, but that's also some good news, perhaps. We've seen that as every series of Arcade1up cabinets have been released, they've been getting better and better, whether it's improved LCDs, deck protectors, improved buttons and joysticks, or even just cosmetic things like the branded risers and the lighted marquees that this company improves on every wave of product that they come out with. So it's in my hope, if I can get a Marvel 1-up pinball machine right off the bat, that when I do get it, that if there's any kinks in the first series of pinball machines, that those will be all ironed out by the time the Marvel pinball comes out. This may be a little bit of a surprise, but coming in at number 2 is Sega's World Series Baseball '99. If you haven't had the chance to play this, one of the great things I loved about it was the control mechanisms. With a joystick, you controlled, when you're at bat, you controlled a circle cursor, and as the pitcher made his pitch, you would have to center that cursor onto the baseball, and the more centered it was, the better you were gonna hit it. But at the same time, there's also a bat mechanism that you pulled back, and the further you pulled it back, the more power you're going to hit the ball with. So not only did you have to match it with the cursor, you also had to pull back the bat and release it at a good time. And this really made the game stand out to me. I was a really huge baseball fan as a kid, and this was by far the best game to ever replicate that feeling of locating and the timing, right? So I really don't remember the pitching mechanics that much. I don't think it. I remember there was something to it as well, but it's been over 20 years since I probably played this cabinet, and I always really wanted to play it again. I haven't ran across it, but I think this is possible. We've seen that Arcade1up just secured NBA Jam. They were able to get the approval from not only the league, but the Players Association. And this cabinet, we can see that Arcade1up is already talking and working with Sega. So in a lot of ways, it's very easy, in my opinion, or very possible that Arcade1up could get this cabinet out there to the masses. It would probably only really need one game on there, the most advanced or the latest version of World Series Baseball with the same mechanisms. But these sports games really have a lot of replay value. You can play them over and over again, especially once you get a second person on there. Or if they would make this World Series Baseball live, that would open up a whole lot of other possibilities. And like I said, the controls really make this game stand out. And number 1 on my most wanted list is Wrestlefest by Technos. I actually used to have this cabinet. It got damaged when I moved it into my home a little bit, and then it started having some monitor issues. Decided to sell it, and once I did sell it, I kind of felt it was a big mistake. But the good news is that now we have Arcade1up, and I really do believe that this is a possible upcoming title. This cabinet would not only have Wrestlefest, but would need to have WF Superstars. It's the only other game that would make sense. Both were made by Technos. When this game first came out, it was really probably the closest we ever seen to a legitimate WF Superstars game. I know there was one that came out, I think it was called WrestleMania for the Nintendo NES, but its graphics were really, really bad. It was probably, even bad for the NES. So when WWF Superstars came out, it was definitely it was really good for our little brothers and cousins because that meant we could just go to the arcade and pumping quarters instead of dropping DDTs on them. But WrestleFest it came out later. It was a superior arcade cabinet. It gave you more playable characters The sprites were bigger and more detailed. It had two modes. One was Royal Rumble, which is self-explanatory if you know the WWF, and the other mode was Tag Team, where you won 3 or 4 matches and you went against the Boss Tag Team, which was Legion of Doom. And then Superstars, it was just Tag Team, I believe, if I remember right. And then you had to only win like 3 matches, and then you went against the Mega Butts, who was Ted DiBiase and Andre the Giant. So to get this cabinet would be, I think it would be a hit for all us 80s kids who really love WWF. Video games was solid, they were fun, especially the 4-player cabinet. So I think this would just be a great addition to the Arcade1 cabinet. And I really hope that somebody for Arcade1up watches this. That way I could add this to my collection. Well, this ends my top 5 most wanted Arcade1up cabinets. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to let me know what Arcade1up cabinets would you like to see released in the future. Until next time.